Let's do this thing.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Oh no, a song's gonna come out.
What kind of laugh was that?
Me?
You said,
Anyway.
said, let's do it. And you said, hey.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Okay, anyways, is this nervous laughing? I feel like this is gonna be a hard
it's
episode.
going to be a hard episode, but thank you all for joining another episode of Never a Dull Moment.
We've been a little MIA because we've been fighting. If we're honest, was the last conversation we did, is the last episode, The Art of Arguing?
No, it was the kids.
Oh yeah. I'm like, oh, that would have been a good one.
Yeah, no, it was the kids.
But before that, I think it was The Art of Arguing, and we have been practicing.
Yeah, we've been practicing arguing.
I realized that when we're not in a good place, I don't want to do any episodes. And Bessie just doesn't remind me. And then I get to blame him.
Yeah, I'm really good at pissing you off, though.
You are grade A at pissing me off. the
Yeah,
last couple
I'm a
of
pro.
weeks. You're a pro.
Let's say if you're going to do something, do it right.
You win at that. You're winning.
Yeah. It doesn't
Okay.
feel like winning. So all jokes aside, it doesn't really feel like winning.
You're winning at that. If you're winning at anything, you're winning at pissing me off.
Yeah, but you don't want the prizes for that one.
Play dumb games, win dumb prizes. All right, anyways.
Okay, so the topic for today is when you're over it. Over it.
We said we were going to be raw. We said we were going to be real. So here it is.
Yeah,
y'all.
we almost weren't going to do this episode, but we promised you all that we would be raw with you and real. So
And we've already failed you at doing it every Tuesday. So we might as well show up and be raw and real. So here we are.
right. So our topic is when you're over it, and then it's the power of focusing on yourself and what you can control. Because I think a lot of times stemming from that, a lot of times why I get angry, it's because I'm trying to control the situation, right?
Yep.
And I'm
that's
not
what we
focused. Yeah. Hey, what do you mean we found? You weren't nice either.
No, I'm not nice. My family says the boys call me mom. Why you gotta be so brutal?
Why you gotta be so rude? Is that how the song goes? What does it mean?
I don't know. I don't know what song that is.
Hey, you do.
I don't know.
I'm gonna marry you,
Oh,
marry that girl.
it talks about
I don't know how it
marriage.
goes. I don't know what it
I don't
says.
like- yeah, okay.
Why you gotta be so rude?
We're not singers. This is not a singing podcast. We should just stop. Okay. Anyways, so
Everyone could sing in the shower.
this is not the shower. Know
Right.
your time and place.
Okay. Focus. Back on topic.
So you had a great question. I don't remember what it was. I didn't think of my answer, but go ahead and answer it.
Well, I don't know that
No,
question
go ahead.
aligns with this.
That's
the
fine.
podcast.
Let's just do it. We have a
But
question.
so the question I had, and it was something I heard from a podcast I listened to this week. It was what is something you probably hear from your mentors or something. But what is one piece of advice that you were given that kind of stuck with you?
Oh yeah, you said what's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Yeah,
Okay, you have an
and
answer.
for me, the one thing that I stick to is and always try to look busy. I feel like we kind of had this conversation already once too, but
You like that one. You tell our kids that all the
yeah, but that is I was a young kid, didn't really have a father, so I didn't have anything to
No
model.
wonder you married me.
Just listen.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Rude. Can I speak?
All right, go ahead.
So I didn't really have a father figure growing up, so I didn't have anything to model work ethic, right? Other than, my friends around me. And the big one was my uncle.
Mm-hmm.
And so him trying to teach me some wisdom things that, that he picked up from when he first started working when he was a kid. He said someone told him, and I think he was working for Greyhound, the bus company, where like they had to go clean the buses after they docked for the night. And everyone was getting laid off, and this old guy told him, hey, whatever you do, best advice I can give you is always look busy. Like, because there's always something to do. Like, even when you think there's nothing, like there's something you could do.
Yep.
And if you don't even give the illusion of giving value to your employer or your client, they don't need you. Right.
Or just choosing to be valuable.
Yeah, but like, I'm just saying, like there's a transaction, whether it's money or relationship. You should always like I was saying earlier, like an object in motion stays in motion.
So does it always look busy or always find something to do?
Yeah, I think in turn, but as a 15-year-old kid, like the best way you can explain that is look busy, like go do something.
Yeah.
Like when our kids sit idle, we kind of get on them and it's like, hey man, like do something. Like, and they're like, well, that's not my chore. And that's when in turn we tell them, well, that's not my chore either, but it's our house.
Yeah.
So there's always something to be done. Like there's laundry, there's a table that can be wiped up. If the dogs poop on the floor, like do something. Like if you see something that needs done, like have integrity and pick it up.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just move it. Like,
well, that does go into our topic today because just take freaking ownership.
Yeah, but I guess that's good. Yeah, good one. What about you? For me, that's what it was to stay busy. Like there's always something to do. And sometimes that can be overwhelming, especially for someone like me who in my brain I have a laundry list of things I think about all the time. Like I got 0 hours of sleep last night because my brain was just racing. So I'm going off of like no sleep right now. And I'm kicking ass.
You're fine. Suck it up, Buttercup. Keep moving.
Whatever.
Tegan told me the other day, he said, on your gravestone, you know what they're going to write? And I said, who's there? You're my kid. Aren't you going to be the one to choose what's on my gravestone? He's like, yeah. You know what I'm going to write? And I was like, you're thinking about me dead? He's like, do you know what I'm going to write? I was like, what? He's like, just go be productive. That's so rude.
Is that the best piece of advice you got?
I say that all the time. No, that's the best piece of advice I've ever given to our children. I'm just kidding. Your advice reminded me of that. Best piece of advice. Honestly, one of the things I think that's helped me the most recently is one of our amazing team members, Miss Becca. She was telling me about, I've shared this too, but she was telling me about her therapist. I think that's the first place I heard it, but was like, she was having issues like with someone or whatever. And her therapist told her,
who's the air now? All Becca's laundry.
Sorry.
She has a therapist.
Anyways, I don't know who it was, but anyways, she was saying that the therapist said, why do you keep going to the hardware store for grapes? And she was like, what do you mean? And the like idea is that like the hardware store doesn't want to give you, it doesn't like not want to give you the grapes. It just doesn't have grapes. And I think about that little duck song. It's like, got any grapes?
Yeah, when you said that, bum, bum, bum.
Yeah. So like, I swear it was probably, that little thing was probably literally written by like a therapist. Like now it makes sense to me. It literally like mimics that thing, but it's like the idea that we go to family members or we go to people looking for something they literally don't have. And then we're mad at them because they're not giving it to us. Well, the reality is just go to the grocery store for grapes and not to the hardware store because they don't have grapes. And I think in a lot of ways, my entire life, I've went to the wrong store to get the thing that I needed when most of the time I have the grapes already. I just gotta like open up my toolbox and a personal refrigerator and like get the grapes. And so I think that like that's something that's really helped me release expectation. It kind of goes into this topic also, but it's helped me just surrender this idea that like they're not withholding from me, they just don't have it.
Well, who is it? Brene Brown, who says expectation creates resentment.
Ugh. Yeah.
So that kind of falls into the same thing. Like that, it's huge, right? Because like we get a lot of times we get frustrated with our spouse because we're expecting an outcome that we don't get, but we're not actually asking for what we want.
Or maybe we are, and that person just doesn't have it.
Yeah, but I mean, but when it comes to like self-control or self-fulfillment or whatever, like we're not giving to ourselves. We're not filling ourselves. So that's why we're going empty, asking for something. I'm asking you to fill this piece of me that I didn't feel in myself.
Yeah.
And then we end up fighting about it. And it's like, all right, we've been together almost 20 years. One of us has to say sorry just so we can move on to the next step. It's almost like we're playing anymore,
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I think I sent it to you. I was listening to something a couple months ago, and it said like it was a couple that was talking about how they don't believe in sorry. And I've like struggled. I don't have an answer yet, but it's something I've been pondering. Like, is sorry actually effective? I think, and this is a whole nother topic. I won't go down here too long, but is sorry actually productive? And I think that like in so many of the clients that I work with, specifically couples, there's a couple of people specifically, and I know I do this. It's like, no, I'm going to hold on to resentment, be mad. I'm going to choose to be mad until he says sorry. And I think you do that a lot to me because you're better at saying sorry sometimes, most of the time.
I usually jump to say sorry too, because it's like, I know we're not going to fight about this forever. So
if it's up to me, we will.
That's a you problem. No, so this part of this question on here that I wrote down, it says how shifting the focus to yourself can completely change the dynamic.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know we're the best at this part of arguing, or like when because like the whole topic today is when you're over it, right? And like,
I've been over it, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Like, I've been literally over it so far the last 2 weeks, and you have too.
Okay.
So that's where we've been.
Yeah.
And
I'm like, are you just news? Like,
no, we've talked about this. I think so let me say this real quick, and then we'll go into that. I think part of the challenge that I've uncovered in the last couple of days is that I think a lot of couples just don't talk, but we're not that couple anymore. We used to be, because you just would scoot it under the rug and then try to keep going. But sorry, guys. You're the one who didn't sleep and I'm yawning. But we don't do that. But I think we've actually swung the pendulum to the other side. And now we just sit and ruminate on things. And I think that that's actually what's helped me get through this, is I've gotten to the point where I'm so done trying to find my answer within you that I've decided to try to find it within myself, because I realized that like you don't have the freaking grapes. And I'm just like tired of asking for it. So instead of being mad at you for not having the grapes, I'm just going to choose to either like get them myself or like choose to look for them within myself. But I think the challenge, honestly, like this is like real time. This is like super raw, and I hate being vulnerable, but I'm going to say it anyways.
You're going to cry?
I don't think so.
I'm just kidding.
I think that I think I'm honestly like struggling with not being resentful, having to get on myself.
What does that mean?
Like,
get on yourself?
No, get them myself. Like, I'm using the grapes as the analogy.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding. But I think that like I'll just use this morning. Real talk right now. yesterday we had a massive fight over breakfast. It's always food with us. What is with us in food? Sushi, steak. We fight over bougie ass food. We're fighting not over the food, but like over who cooked the food. And so today I was like, F this. I'm going to cook my steak myself. And I did. And I made my own coffee. And like, there was a small piece of me that's like, surely he'll come down and be like, let me help you with that. And you didn't. And I was highly resentful.
Really?
Yeah.
But see, that's when expectation creates resentment, because you like had an expectation. And you had already chewed my head off about it. Like, I don't need you to do anything for me.
Yeah, no, I said, mark
so
my words. Okay. I said, mark my words. You'll never make me breakfast again. But also, I didn't make your stupid eggs. So, and then you didn't make eggs. And I was like, okay, so like, he's not even going to make eggs. And it's like very childish shit. Like,
well, I didn't eat this morning because I was going to fall asleep.
Tired.
I'm tired now. Look.
Oh my God. Anyways, we're a little spicy still. But
no, you are.
I am. But if I'm honest, after that was me being honest. But then I was like, you're literally being childish, Christine. Like, this is dumb. This is energy. Like, at the end of the day, this is energy that, like, it's not going to get you what you want. And you're going to either have, like, that was my mindset. I'm like, you're either going to have to figure out how to not be bitter and cook breakfast, or don't cook breakfast, but choose to do it with joy. Because this is not actually getting you where you want to go. And I truly believe that, like, I truly believe in, like, the energy we put out or have within us will come back to us. I think we attract from that place. And so I want to spend all of my energy creating positive impact. And if I have resentment, then I'm not going to, like, be putting out a positive impact. And I think I was processing through that real time. You're laughing because you didn't know I felt that way.
I'm not laughing. It's like I'm kind of laughing in shock. Not that it's funny.
Yeah, because I showed up very well this morning, despite my frustration.
You know what it is?
Bitterness.
And I don't mean to cut you off, but I have to say this because I lose my words like every 10 seconds. But I think that's a key point where you're saying, like, you reflected on it and you kind of put on your big girl pants and was like, no, that's not what you want, but that's what you were looking for. So when you focus on these things, your subconscious looks for all those things so that way it gets to be right.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and that's where I think, like, if we really boil it down, probably 90% or more of all arguments that we ever have is because we go into a conversation and I already have the outcome imagined in my head. So I get to make myself right by creating tension.
Yeah, you will find
what you're looking for.
What you focus on.
You're focusing?
You're focusing on. You're focusing on. You find what you focus on.
You will fucking find what you focus on.
Oh my God.
Right.
This is my life. Just being made fun of. Every circle I go into, I just have at least one person who wants to roast me.
You're hilarious.
The hard part is I don't mean to be hilarious. I just am, like, subtly ridiculous. So everyone in my life who's around me.
Who's what? Lizard.
That's so funny. I did that on our podcast today.
You did?
Yes, it's so funny.
Why'd you do that?
My business one. I asked a question, but I was like, just kidding. That's not the question. And then I was like, wait, waka. I was like, I need a scratch board. You guys should go listen. It's also a great episode.
Rubbed up on you a lot. I'm so sorry.
Anyways, back.
But it makes you cool. Makes you way cooler.
I'm way cooler.
Badass.
I'm a dork.
Yeah, but it's great.
It is. And I'm a little resentful for it.
No, you're not.
I'm just kidding. I'm not resentful of that. Back to the conversation. I think, what was the original question that you asked on that thing?
Well, the question was, what is like? It was something that greatest piece of advice.
No, the one you just proposed. Goodness. gracious.
How shifting the focus to yourself can completely change the dynamic.
Well, I think it eliminates. I like to say that we're so many people, I'm going to say this, and I hope it lights everybody's little britches on fire because it pisses a lot of people
Nobody
off.
wears britches anymore.
Everyone wears britches.
They wear thongs.
That would be gross. Okay, anyways. I think we are in control, or like we are 100%, not control. We're 100% responsible for what happens to us 100% of the time. And I get the most backlash for that.
What do you mean,
statement.
like what happens to us or how we show up?
Both. Just pretend everything.
I'm thinking
fault.
like
You're 100% responsible for everything in your life right now.
Okay. Well, in my head, I thought like, I walk into a bar and get hit with a bat.
It's your
Is that
fault.
my fault?
It's your fault.
Why? I went there for a good time, not to get.
Shouldn't have been in the bar.
Oh, okay.
Like, why are you going to that place?
What if I'm at the park?
I really love the bar.
I get bit by a squirrel.
Your fault for sure. Did you take his nuts? What happened?
No, he wanted these nuts.
Oh my gosh. Why are you like this?
Okay.
No, but I'm being serious. Like, if you have that mentality, then you don't live in blame. And the second that like our work, the like foundation of our work is around belief systems. And when we're in a limiting belief, then we attract blame and shame, or we live and we drive out of blame and shame. And so if we go from a place of, I am responsible 100% of the time to all the things that happen to me, around me, for me, whatever, then all of a sudden our mindset changes usually from blame, I'm going to blame you because you didn't cook breakfast, to versus like, then I could swing on the other side of the pendulum to shame and be like, I shouldn't have said what I said yesterday. He's never going to cook breakfast for me again. And I'm a terrible human. I could have. I don't go there. I'm a blamer. And then instead of doing that, I can go, okay, I'm responsible for my destiny. I'm responsible for everything in this moment. I have control over how I show up. I have control over everything that happens. And I'm going to show up and I'm going to take ownership. And when we do that, all of a sudden, it's not, can I get what I want? Or can this be possible? It's how is it possible? How can I make this happen?
So what do you think is the minute shift that can change that whole thing? Sorry, our dog's farting. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but he's just ripping him right there.
Oh my gosh, what is wrong with you?
You don't hear that?
I can hear it. No one else heard it. Anyways.
So you say, what you're saying is like, and I totally agree with you. I think for somebody who does no self-work, no self-development or anything, they hear that and it's like the thing that comes out of your work is like, what's the benefit you get from that? People are like, what the hell? Like, I get no benefit. No, you know what I mean?
You are like,
well, yeah, me too, but I'm not the only one.
No, you're not.
But I'm saying like,
how do you make that shift?
Yeah, because you say everything that you do, some people, they're victims. So everything just happens to me because of this. No, like to me, I'll just say what I think. It's mindset. It starts with the thought. It starts with planting that seed, and the things that you think about grow into reality.
I think a lot of times we allow people to treat us the way all the time we allow people to treat us the way they treat us. And you're not gonna like that I'm gonna bring this up, but I'm gonna go there. My first relationship was highly abusive, physically abusive, and I could be 100% victim to that, or I could say you're the dumbass that stayed. You're the dumbass that let that person mistreat you.
You're talking about you
Yes.
saying that to yourself?
Yeah, like I'm the dumbass that decided to I disrespected myself and didn't put myself in a relationship with someone who respected me. My responsibility. I'll continue to allow that person to treat me like crap. My responsibility. I allowed that person to abuse me. My responsibility. And yes, all of the things were true. If I left, I didn't have the money. If I left, all of the things, like you name the same thing, I probably experienced it. Like I almost lost my life because of that relationship. And it was 100% my responsibility. And so many people, and like abuse is not something that like, I'm not joking about this. And I get that there's really hard scenarios, but we give ourselves every excuse. The reality is I had to become homeless and lose everything to get out of that situation. It's possible. And so I don't care how bad it is our responsibility to create the life that we want. But what happens is we put someone else and we go, that they're the problem. I can't because of this. I can't because of him. And that is 100% what I've been doing is I'm like, well, I can't ever be supported because I married a loyalist. I can't ever be supported because I married someone who's not a go-getter. I can't ever be supported because of X, Y, and Z. Like it's always support for me. That's like what shows up is I just feel absolutely unsupported versus looking at all of the ways that you support me and focusing on the things that are working and taking ownership over the things that aren't working. That like you have to start with what's working. I think that's like one of the shifts, and then the other shifts like and what you can control. Right? It's like I have to first look at the things that are working, and then I also have to look at how can I take control over the things or get what I need, get what I want, get supported regardless of how this person shows up. And the thing that drives me the most crazy that we both learned probably at the same time is when we're in an argument and you're like, I can't make you feel any way. I just like really want to punch you. Like, I just want to knock your ass out. Makes me so mad. You're like,
because it's true. The truth.
I can't make you feel any way.
The truth shall set you free.
No, bro, you are making me feel this way. But the reality is you're not. I'm allowing my past triggers, my past shit to make me feel a certain way. And I'm blaming you for it. Now, do I like how you're treating me? No. The reality is there is a very big problem sometimes with how you treat me and vice versa. But instead of allowing you to treat me that way, I allow myself to get riled up instead of just taking ownership, removing myself from the situation or changing the narrative for myself. I consistently look at how you won't do it and I just wait on you. Like I'm a freaking duck. And I'm like, he probably won't do it again. I'm like a 5-year-old when I'm mad at you. And it's dumb. Like I don't do that in any other sector of my life. If anyone else was to treat me that way, they'd be done.
Dead? Like
dead. I'm mob wifing today. I'm just kidding. People get really mad about that. I'm Italian. My team told me this was my mob wife coat.
I think you're more French than Italian.
Actually, I'm not. I found out I have more French or more Italian on my dad's side.
Yeah.
Anyways, another story. So that's my answer. Like that's how it looks for me. And it's really hard. Like when I'm in that place, it's really hard to shift that because I just want to punch you instead of taking
because
ownership.
like I was saying, like your subconscious is begging and forcing to be right. It wants to be right. So it doesn't want to come back to it.
No,
and that's what usually when even if you're wrong, that's kind of where like the dynamics of that changes. Like even if you know you're wrong, It's like, ugh, you kind of get mad at yourself now. Like, now that I'm wrong.
I don't know. I don't necessarily like, maybe I do in certain circumstances, but it's not being wrong that like takes me off. It's feeling unsupported. That's
Well, I'm
like,
thinking more or less. See, you're thinking about you, and I'm thinking about you.
they're just all thinking about me. Take ownership. That's what this is about.
I know, but
bro.
but what I'm thinking is like when we do trigger something that creates an argument, usually it's something stupid that I said, and I'm like, oh man.
No, it is always something stupid you said.
That's what I just said.
I'm just kidding. Actually, rule number 1 of arguing is you don't say never, always, or anything that is.
Oh, so you're breaking rule number 1.
Okay. Sometimes you say.
Man, you don't let anybody talk, huh?
I'm sorry.
You want to tell the people what I'm thinking?
This is a moment.
You're
about to do it.
I lost
You're
my
about to say
train of
something
thought.
stupid.
I lost my train of thought.
Arguments are usually sometimes started,
It's gone. It's gone.
because you said something stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what? What was next? What was your point?
I don't know. I forgot. Arguments are usually started because I say something stupid. Don't laugh. No, okay. So, all right. I remember what I was going to say. Don't cut me off this time because then it'll be gone forever. Then don't look at me. All right. So, what I was saying is like, usually I will feel like I did something wrong. Like, oh man, that was wrong. Like the other day, like I thought I was joking, said something stupid that really hurt your feelings. And then I reflect on it and it's like, dang, like you should think about this person. Like you love this person. And kind of what I go to a lot, with that kind of stuff is like when you first met your spouse, you didn't treat them that way.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't even love them yet. So you would treat this person that you really don't know. You're basically just lusting over. You would treat this person better than your spouse whom you say that you love and that you have this history with, you have all these memories with.
Mm-hmm.
You'll treat this stranger, it's the same person, but you're treating the stranger version of that person, or you treat that person better than the person that you created a life with, that you say you love and these things.
Yeah.
So when that usually hits is when usually I'm like, oh wow, like I went that the wrong way. So that's when it's really hard to apologize in that moment because you're already done, like dagger right to the heart, And the last thing you want to hear from someone that says they love you, look you in the eye and says they love you is something that really tears you down and hurts you.
Well, yeah, 100%.
So I don't know, like, I don't know, like you were saying, what were you saying about you? You take ownership.
Yeah, like
So I think so I think it's a sense of ownership on my end. Cause I think like, oh man, I hurt her feelings. Like I know I'm better than that. Like
I think where you get into trouble though, this is not me taking ownership. This is me telling you what to do. I'm going to say it anyways. This is not what you're supposed to do because you're supposed to take ownership of your own self. Well, I'm going to tell you what to do and model what you don't do.
Okay.
Anyways, I think the challenge is that like you really step into a place of false responsibility, and that's when you say stupid stuff. Like instead of just owning you, you decide to try to own me. And it doesn't work.
Yeah, but that's not just me.
No, but I'm saying that's when it happens. Every time you say something stupid, it's because you are trying to control me. No, it's not just you. It's every fight that probably most couples have start with the core foundation of this is I am more interested in changing you than taking ownership over me. And therefore it creates a ripple because I am taking false responsibility. You're not mine to own. Your stuff is not mine to own. And so I think that that's exactly what happens is like on either side, we will trigger the other person because we're trying to take ownership over them versus taking ownership over our best self. And I look at like our triggers as like little baby hooks. So if you're walking around, sometimes they're big hooks. If you're walking around with a hook out, you're going to catch something. And chances are if it's a trigger, if you're triggered, you're walking around with your little trigger hook, you're going to catch your spouse because they're the one closest to you most of the time. And then,
explain that more. Like, what is a trigger hook?
Well, I don't know.
Or if you're like kind of like what the things that you focus on, right? Like you go into the situation with these negative things already in your brain.
Correct. Like I think I kind of see it. It's like I'm very visual. So like in my head, when I'm in my limiting belief and I'm in in an unhealthy place, I walk around and I have like my hook out. And like this hook is my trigger limiting belief hook. And so when I have this hook out, I'm going to catch anyone who also has their hook out. Even like, and I don't know there's anyone on this earth that doesn't at least have it out a little bit. On the other side, you have your vision and your foundational belief. And so if you're walking around and you're living from that belief, then you're going to hook other people from that place, right? And like, if I can hook you from my limiting belief, chances are I'm going to be able to hook you from my foundational belief. But whatever we're actually like activated in, we're driving from, we're going to attract from that place. And so,
you're saying kind of like in a polarity sense, you're not like you actually hook. It's like they connect, right? It's like if you're thinking negative thoughts, they're gonna stick to other negative things.
Yeah, like you're gonna like lock that person in.
They're like, gonna pull to other negative things.
And then you're like, oh, this a-hole. And you're like, never take ownership. And like, yeah, you had your little triggers out. You walked into the room and your spouse was like, you make dumb decisions. And you were like, screw you. And then you're in a fight because you walked in already in limiting belief and you attracted your spouse in that place. And then you end up just like spiraling. Yeah. So I think the goal, again, if we come back to ownership, the like owner minded thing to do, if I'm taking ownership, I'm going to be like, wow, I'm in my limiting belief. We're going to like know what this like looks like and sounds like and feels like within us. We're going to be like, actually, I'm not going to like go into that room right now. I'm going to text my spouse, tell him I love him and I need 5 minutes. I'm going to go deal with my stuff, or I'm going to go on a run, or whatever that thing is, or I'm going to like say 5 affirmations and focus on the things I love about myself and my spouse the most, and like focus on the things that are working and what I can control before I walk into this space and just trigger the shit out of my spouse. But most of the time we don't. We just walk in and we're like on our little high horse.
Yeah.
And we're just going to grab that person. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's because we're so desperately want to be right.
Yeah.
Like subconsciously, right? It's not like I'm coming in here like I'm right and she's wrong. It's like subconsciously like, no, I get the last word. And it's very toxic because it's like, it really doesn't resolve the issue anyway, because they're already projecting. Like you're projecting all these things that you feel negative about your spouse and you want them to feel it. So you're projecting all that onto them. So it doesn't do anything. You should, like you said, like the things that you should be doing, you don't do. What does that say? There's the things you should do, you don't do, and the things you shouldn't do, you do. I know it's like a stupid saying, but
yeah. Well, I think it's like, again, the benefit we get feels better. So we get a negative benefit, but it feels good, right? The interesting thing is with like, it can show up very differently. Like with my limiting belief, if I don't measure up, I'll be left behind. So I jump into measuring up. I try to like do, and I hold the bar really high. With your limiting belief of there's no good in me, you show up like that, and then I affirm it. Like that is the most frustrating thing.
I ain't shit. And you're like, yeah, you ain't shit.
I'm like, yeah, you're right. And like, that's like,
And then I'm like, and I'm out. And you're like, don't leave me.
yeah, literally. But that, to your point, like, you want to be right. And like, I think a lot of times when I hear you say, I want to be right, like, we want to be right, it's not always like, I'm right, I win the fight. Like,
Yeah.
for you, it's like, I'm not shit. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, yeah, you're right. And you're like, yep, see, I knew it.
Yeah.
And like, so it doesn't have to be this masculine, like, oh, I got to be right. It's this subconscious, I there's no good in me. I'm not shit.
Yeah,
And
I
then,
get to affirm that by treating you the way I do, and then you turn around and do that, and it reaffirms that, okay, maybe you are worthless.
yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'm so worthless. Like, wow, maybe
you
we
do it on
should just
purpose.
like not love each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's toxicity.
Yeah. And then like I'm always like pushing and like going, and you come in and say something like, you make dumb decisions. And I'm like, literally, I take so much time to make every decision and like intention and all of the things. I live on purpose and I have the things and I have the systems. It's still not right. And you like affirm that. And I'm like, yeah, I get to be right. And it just works together. And I would say
Yeah.
most couples, because we're in alignment on the foundational on the vision side, chances are we're really good at triggering each other.
Yeah.
Like on both sides.
Not even on purpose.
No, it's not conscious,
Yeah,
I would
not
say most of the
conscious.
time.
And that's why you usually feel like terrible after you're like, oh man, I didn't mean that.
Do I?
You do. You're a challenger. So you're like, I'm not saying sorry. Forget him. I'm never going to have him make breakfast with the grand. But then you're like, oh, but I want him to make me breakfast.
But you didn't.
But I didn't.
So I took ownership.
Yeah, but I came downstairs like,
I made my own damn breakfast.
cool.
I got to be right.
You're a big girl. You get to make your own breakfast.
It's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
So to wrap it up, I think those are the two things. I think it's the number one is obviously to take ownership.
Take ownership. Yeah.
Quit trying to change your partner. Quit trying to fix other people. You can't change other people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your happiness is not theirs, and it's not their responsibility.
No.
And we can talk about that in a coming episode too. That's a good topic. The story of the star, giving away your happiness.
Oh yeah. I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, but I think like what you're saying, like you have to take ownership and Yeah.
Assume responsibility.
yeah. I like in my head it just all falls together. Like you have to take ownership. So, you have to check yourself at the door. How are you walking into each room? Like, each room is a new chapter. You get to choose the outcome when you walk into a room. What's it going to be like coming out of that room? But, that's responsibility right there too. Like when I get home from work, do I come in and kick the door open and lay the baggage out to the kids? No, I'm intentional. I love them. But with your spouse, it's like she's your rock and is the person it's easiest, like you said, to hook. So I think like I said, we do these talks raw. So, that's a lot of information I never heard you talk about before, like hooking with your negative beliefs and stuff. So
Yeah, you have. We talk about
but
that.
not really. Like we don't when we're arguing, we don't like talk about the solution like that,
that would be so helpful. We have all the tools and we still don't do it.
Yeah, but
We like turn into our little 5-year-old self.
but then we lean on each other like, what's the solution? I don't know.
I know. Actually, that's something we should get rid of.
What's that?
That's actually something that I think that I want to get rid of is like, what's the solution? I'm literally like passing responsibility to when I say that. I'm like, so what's the solution?
Yeah, and like for me, I feel pressure to come up with an answer. It's like, have you seen that Tony Robbins thing where he's like, all right, look around the room, look for stuff that's blue, look for something that's blue. And he's like, all right, tell me all the things that are blue. He's like, now close your eyes and tell me everything that's red. And he's like, you just said something that just sounds smart. Like, it's like, you just give somebody an answer because they're asking. So like that, you're passing the responsibility, and people, I think our tendency is to help. We don't want to be not served. It's like we were created to serve and to reciprocate, right? So like when someone asks you a question, it's like not normal if somebody doesn't give you an answer.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. I don't think we've ever talked about it in that way, but by asking what's the solution, we're pushing that ownership onto the other person.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know the answer. So what's your solution then? Because like this sucks.
I think most of the time I have the solution. I'm just too petty because I'm like, I come up with all of the things. It's all my job. I have to do everything. That's where I get. And so typically I have the answer. I'm just not willing to do it. I'm just like, he can come up with something versus just taking ownership and moving
that's
forward.
like making your own eggs.
What? You didn't make your own egg.
No, I said you made your own steak.
Oh. Yeah.
Because like I knew the solution, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm just do it. It's that energy that doesn't really get you anywhere.
Well, and then I think to come back to that point, like it's choosing to like take ownership and then not be resentful.
Yeah.
Like own your gift, take ownership over what you want and don't be resentful of it. I think it's like I think that's a big one for me.
I think too, like trust is a huge deal, like especially with me, but when it comes to like things like that, it's like I have to trust your answer. Right? Like I can't make you feel wrong because your solution is different than mine. We're going way off topic here.
How?
I think we're just expanding it.
Well, it's a big no, I think it's a big topic.
No, it is, but I think like for our listeners, I think, when you're over it, what do you do? Okay, so you got to come back and get self-centered. You have to take self-control. You have to have ownership. So I think the key, like the nucleus, is the like ownership, taking ownership. Like that kind of rounds off of everything. I don't know what those charts are called, where a bubble chart or whatever, where you do like something in the middle and then you draw those circles.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's like that, like ownership is like the very center.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, you talk a lot about like you can't give what you don't have.
Yeah. So
if you're not taking ownership, you're going to be projecting blame to everybody. So, just take ownership. But even if you're right, if you're wrong, like just stay centered, take ownership. Like we chose to do this relationship, so we're going to fight for it.
Or not. If you're not going to be able to like, I'm not like aligning with divorce or like leaving, but like, or not, if you can't take ownership and you can't find center or grounding in your relationship, and the only way to be safe or be healthy or like, I'm not going to say happy because happiness is a choice, but safety and like health can be choices. But if you're in a relationship where you have taken ownership and the only thing that's left to do, like take the jump and leave. If you literally cannot be with that person without blaming them, and ownership would look like leaving, then like, don't wait. Like, don't make them so wrong just so you can be right.
I feel like that is way beyond what we're talking about.
It is, but I think it's important.
Because if it gets to that point, yeah, for sure. If it gets to that point, though, like you're beyond taking ownership.
No, but that's still a form of taking ownership. And like, we're Christian, and I believe that like God has healing for all marriages. Like we have had the gamut of shit. And like, if you think you probably couldn't get through it, we've probably had to get through it. Right. And like, abuse is not necessarily probably like verbal or like emotional abuse. Abuse is not one of those things. Physical abuse is not one of those things. Drug addiction necessarily isn't one of those things. But
necessarily?
I had some drug days in our early relationship, but nothing like, I wasn't like selling a kid to get high. Like it wasn't that. But I think that we have to look at that and go, You know, like there's just some things that you can't just like sit and wait on God for. Like, I don't think that most of the time, I don't think that we're waiting on God. God's waiting on us. God's already spoken and he's like, yeah, like, let's go. Come on.
What does it have to do with leaving
And
though?
because I think a lot of times we're just like, oh, but did you pray for your spouse? Like, yeah, bitch, I prayed for him. It's not working because God doesn't just like
This just took a
move.
shift in a really
But I
dark
like
direction.
no, but I think it's important to say because here's the deal. It's like I was that person that was just like holding on to my relationship and thought that like if I could just be better, then I wouldn't be abused. Not in this relationship, but in my first relationship. And I think that like the ownership I needed to take to be healthy and safe was to get out of the relationship.
Yeah, but you didn't.
I eventually did.
Eventually did.
But it almost took my life.
Yeah.
And if somebody would have, I literally had like a handful of people, including my family.
So what would have
that was
triggered
like,
you to make that jump sooner though? Because if
to value
we're shifting this
myself.
conversation into that, like
To value myself and take ownership over the life, the healthy and safe life. That's why I'm saying happiness is not on the table. Happiness is truly a choice. Like if you're just a little unhappy, then get the hell over yourself because it's like happiness is important, but it's not the most important. Like Jesus said, you will share in my suffering. Like if you're going to share in my glory, you're going to share in my suffering. Life and marriage specifically is not always happy. I am not always happy with you. I'm not always joyous in my marriage, but I'm always safe and I'm always healthy. I have access to both of those things in this marriage, where in my first relationship, I did not have access to those things.
So what advice would you give to yourself? Because obviously like it took a long time and fear trumps like self-worth sometimes, you know, like, cause if you had to get thrown down the stairs, you got cheated on, like you got all these things happening.
Yeah.
If you had all that self-worth, like you said, it took you so long to leave, and some women don't get out of there. Men probably too, but you know, some people they sacrifice their life. They end up dying because they're too afraid to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's fear, but I think it's also like for me, it was like if I could have just been a little bit better, like I truly was trying to take ownership. Like if I could just be a better wife, if I could just be a little bit thinner, if I could just be like, I was really trying to take ownership. And then you hit a certain point where like, it actually doesn't matter. The bar is so high, which really worked for my limiting belief. The bar is so high that like, there's nothing that I can do to make this person not abuse me. There's nothing I can do to make this person not cheat on me. This is a them problem, not a me problem. And I think like, if you get to that point and it's, you know, if you have someone who is not willing to take ownership on their side, and they're not willing to change or like work on it at like an extreme level. I think it's important to say that like, yes, you can continue to work on yourself. And I did. That's why we're here today. But I think in a lot of ways, like specifically the Christian communities, like just pray a little harder, just like hang in there. Don't get divorced. And I'm like, that's not what I'm saying. And I want to be very clear about that because I needed that message in my first relationship because I wasn't actually putting myself in a safe place and like, yes, hang on to the marriage and fight like hell for it. Unless you're not safe and healthy. If you don't have access to being safe and healthy, then you need to make a different decision. And that's all I'm saying. Like, I want to make sure in some of these episodes, we have a very clear message that like there are reasons why staying in a relationship actually are not the best thing. And I'm not saying it has to be forever, but there are times when you have to look at it and go, this is not safe or healthy for me anymore. Like truly safe or healthy. And I need to make a change. And that's not what I'm advocating, obviously, for our marriage or for like most marriages out there. But I do think like, I want to be intentional with saying like, it might not be that you just need to pray a little harder. It might not be that you need to just like be a better wife.
Yeah, maybe God's speaking and you're not listening, right?
Yeah, like if
like there's avenues for you to leave you just aren't moving.
Exactly. Like I could have made the really hard decisions 100 million times over. I chose to stay because it was
100 million.
like literally it was, I should have made that decision every single day until I made it.
Yeah.
But I continued to put myself in that situation because it was such a hard leap. I knew I was going to leave all the money and comfort behind, and it was hard. So I'm not saying it like taking ownership is the hardest thing you're probably going to ever do, specifically in your relationship. And it doesn't matter if you're leaving or you're staying. Like sometimes it's super hard to stay in a relationship, but also it's really hard to leave. So I think part of it is you just got to choose your heart. So I know that was a little bit off topic, but for me, I think that sometimes we need that message. Like sometimes there's someone out there that like needs that message. It's just like, feels like they're the terrible wife or the terrible husband that just like is going to tap out. And the reality, it's stopping them from being healthy. I'm not advocating for divorce. Like this is a very intimate decision and conversation. But I think that like it's important that we see that, because in the church, a lot of times they're like, just pray a little more. Just like, I know he's abusing you and he's probably like using some meth, but like, just pray a little more. Like, no, girl, leave. Like you choose how people treat you. That's part of ownership. And whether it's extreme like that or it's not, you choose. So choose your heart. It's really hard to set those boundaries. Also really hard to be in an unhealthy relationship. And when I mean unhealthy, I would say that the last 2 weeks between us have been unhealthy, but like not abusive unhealthy, though. That's like, there's different levels, right? And I think that is like, it's not healthy. I don't want to live in a codependent relationship. That doesn't feel good, but it's overcomeable. There's hope there. We're both working on it. We're both sharpening each other. So anyways, we'll stop it there. If you want to listen to a Hot Mess Express every single Tuesday, we're going to try to stay on track and be consistent. We will be here keeping it sharp, and it really is never a dull moment.
Yeah. So we'll be here every Tuesday. Like we said, on schedule as best that we can. We're here to serve each other and serve you. The best way that you can support us is you could rate this podcast. You could share it if you're watching it on YouTube. What other ways?
Share, rate, and like.
Oh yeah, like, subscribe, share, rate, all of it.
All the things.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys next Tuesday for another episode of Never a Dull Moment.
Yeah, take care.